So two ways to do the brake pads on a Gen 2 Prius. One is what I call the NASCAR Pitstop, so in and out as fast as possible. And the other is, doing things right, taking a little extra time, and therefore it's a more expensive job. So there is no one right way. Sometimes people just don't have any money, and they want the fast, cheap job. Okay, so I have the car all jacked up as I showed earlier. What I look at, and it's normally very hard to see because everything's kind of dirty. So in this little window, if you see, the gold paint is the rotor and the silver paint is the brake pad friction material. Pretty hard to see, but once you know what you're looking at, you can see it more easily. So step one is to cram a slot screwdriver between these two things. The only job of the small screwdriver is to make room for a bigger screwdriver. So here's my next size up. All right, so now I can slowly pry, and it's gonna be quite a bit of space I need to create by prying outwards like this. I'm putting good even pressure because I'm actually compressing a hydraulic piston. Undo this one bolt. Besides the wheel lug nuts, I only have to undo one bolt for this method. I'm going to swing this. See, my piston was compressed with that screwdriver trick. Okay, so here's where I was prying and creating that gap. That pushed that pad that way and pushed the piston in. And again, this gouge doesn't matter because I'm replacing these.
If you don't like the screwdriver method, you can use this tool shown here, or a C-clamp, or some giant channel locks. So there are options.
Pushing the piston back in nice and easy. There we go.
If you look at that Sharpie mark, the brake fluid level has gone up significantly, and that's because I compressed the caliper pistons.
New pads. Okay. And here I have some anti-seize. If I look at the contact pattern, the inner has a round contact pattern, and the outer has a forked contact pattern. So that's where I need my anti-seize. So on the inner round, outer forked, and I do like to get just a little bit on the corners. Now, frequently you'll get new clips. I actually like the factory clips. They're the best. So unless they're wasted, leave them in, and you just want to clean right here and make sure this can move freely. All right, so here's one last part. I have to press the brake pedal down a few times before I have any brakes. So here's what I'm talking about. Brake pedal, I pressed it a little. Ready on. Now watch this. Press it a couple times. Now I have brakes. Okay, here's the last step I like to do. Get going. Go in neutral. Hit hit the brakes. Do that about 3 times, and the brakes are bedded in. That's it.
Stay tuned for a few more hints.
As for when to change your brake pads, simple rule of thumb, friction materials here on the front of the pad, and then the metal backing forms the back of the pad. As soon as the friction material becomes the same thickness or thinner than the backing material, it's time. If you look at this, the backing material is thicker than the friction material. So it's time. I want to show you the jacking points on a Gen 2 Prius. So let's look under there. So here you can see these little cuts. This is called the pinch weld. This is where I like to put the jack stand. The jack, right here, that. Okay. In order to prep the pads, I like to actually use the box as a clean working surface. So flatten your box out like that. So some of them have this spring clip called the squealer, and this always goes on the inner. If you think about the rotor turning, you want it to be the part of the rotor that touches the pad first. So on this side I want the clip to be up, which will be this one. If I put this one in, the clip would be down. If you get that wrong, it's not the end of the world though. Put the clip on the inside. More than any other bolt in the whole car, this is the bolt that people like to break because you're thinking it holds my brakes in, I better make it really tight. It doesn't have to be that tight. Snug, okay. Occasionally this inner portion will rotate as well, so that has flats on it. I can hold that with the 17, and the outer here is a 14.